statement.
Now, let me do a few quotes, and these we've shared on all of our, social media channels. Now, this is from Ace Nkobo, who is a former South African referee. Now, these are some of the quotes. I quote, "My independent conclusion is that the referee in this match was blatantly biased against South Africa," unquote. And then I do another one. Quote, "I spent several hours and 5 hours and 17 minutes watching the first half and putting together the report. But the second half was 2 hours of reviewing because most of the time I was watching football and the referee making good decisions. There were 75 major incidents in the game. That 90.9 of the incorrect decisions went against one team and is a clear case of official unlawfully influencing or manipulating the course or outcome of the match." Okay, and these are quotes from Ace Nkobo, who is a former referee. Also, Hugo Bruce, the South African the South African head coach, says, "The game started, and after 15 minutes, I went to my bench and said to my two assistants, forget it. Ghana will win this game." We'll be getting on the phone lines very shortly to speak to George Addo Jr., who has been doing some work on Hazaka's ladies in the Western region. But of course, George Addo Jr. was also there in Cape Coast together with Gary Al Smith. They covered this game extensively for Joy Sports, and George was the lead commentator as well. He'll be bringing us some thoughts as well. Now, Morris, what do you make of these conclusions that have been made? I mean, Ace Nkobo, away from being South African, is a professional, and you'd want to see him give as much as possible a professional, look and feel to the conversations.
But being a professional who was contacted by SAFA to do this work, also then you question the independence of it, because he's an interested party. I watched the press conference via a Zoom link provided, and he's an interested party to it. But be that as it may, referees from time immemorial have made mistakes because it's a human institution. That's why the international board, they meet annually in Northern Ireland. They meet and then they review. They review the law, so they are always tweaking it because, and over time, we've introduced technology. We had a Hawkeye technology to help. A goal is only a goal if the full circumference of the ball crosses the line. Sometimes shots are hit, and within split seconds, referees are supposed to make judgment call. So that we had a Hawkeye to assist. Now, when the referees, we have the video assistant referees, VAR, because it's a human institution, they will make errors. So that's why, because you see, FIFA itself recognizes that. That's why over time you can catalog. And I know you are a stickler for research. You can find out how many replays have been ordered in world football, whether FIFA ordered or FIFA supported. Very often they take a dim look at countries that order replays based on referees' judgmental decision, because it leads to chaos, or it can lead to chaos. I mean, potential legal. So FIFA itself, it's only in rare, I'm sure you can count them on your finger, a number of matches that have been replayed. So this issue, this case before FIFA will be interesting. But when you look at the South Africans, they blame everything on the referee. That because there were issues, they were talking about unusual betting patterns, but they will be difficult to prove. But now they wanted to make a case of the referee deliberately manipulating the law. And it's going to be interesting to see how FIFA is going to adjudicate this. But it's not going to be anything that will be easy because the GFA will also come back fighting hard.
All right, so let's get your comments as well, and we'll be getting the perspective of George Addo Jr., who was our lead commentator for this game. George, thank you very much for joining us. How is the Western Regional Capital this morning?
It's okay. It's okay. Slightly hot. I think temperatures are up 31 degrees. But it's usual fine, and everybody here is very happy with what the ladies did, knowing that they did punch above their weight, and we're happy trying to get in the backstories and everything. And of course, a good afternoon to Maurice and all the seniors in the studio.
Well, George, you were there. I mean, for some 48 hours to that game, there was a lot that you did from camp. And then also the game was played, and then the reactions came. First of all, I want us to revisit the moments after the 30th minute of that game, which you brought us live commentary on. What did you see, and what was it actually like from commentary position?
Okay, and before I even do that, I like the fact that Maurice did say that it's not about referees making a mistake or not, because that can happen in a game. So it's a good place to start from. Now, we were at the opposite end, more or less, where the media stand was. We're on the opposite end of the Black Stars scoring area. That is the South African defense and the South African goalpost. So to the other side of the scoreboard. So what we could see, and what I could see from the corner kick, Jordan Ayew had an opportunity to score. He didn't take the chance and shot lately. That the latter part, the ball went out. The referee said it was a corner kick. And then the corner kick was effected. When it was effected, it went above the first group of guys who were standing at the goalkeeper's near post. Then it went into the far post, and Daniel Amate received the ball and came down the challenge. He had a South African very close to him. That was Rushini Dirock. He was very close to him. There were movements in that area, and it's normal for corner kick situations. But Daniel Amate, from where I was standing and from what I saw, there was a little bit of a touch on him, and then he went down. Later, the replays that we saw would confirm it. Whilst we were in the stadium, and we said during commentary that we could not independently verify there from where we were sitting whether there was a touch or not, but it was clear that there was a coming together. It was clear that Daniel Amate came down, and then the referee awarded the penalty. So later, when we saw the video, they were like, all right, yeah, there was a touch on him. And as to whether you call a penalty soft or call it hard or call it medium soft, it is not your job. It is the job of the referee to decide based on what he has seen. His interpretation at the time there was that it was supposed to be a penalty, and that penalty was awarded. So from commentary position, that's what we saw, and nothing more really.
George, on a whole, did you have any feeling whatsoever compared to many other games that you've run commentary on that the referee was tilting towards a particular team?
I don't think so. I don't think so. We watched, for me, I thought we watched a fair game. And you see, sometimes it's about the kind of psyche you come into these games with. I think South Africa came here believing that Ghana was going to do everything possible to make them lose a game, including doing everything possible. So if you didn't come with a good mindset in the beginning, it affects everything that you read in the game. All right? Because even if the referee awarded the penalty to Ghana, Ghana still needed to score. And South Africa had to score their goal. The referee did not stop South Africa from scoring any goal. In fact, in the last 20 minutes, if you watched it, South Africa were really on the up and kept on piling a lot of pressure. In the same vein, Ghana had opportunities as well to score the second goal, to score the third goal. Kamadin Sulemana, we saw Jordan Ayew. They had opportunities. So it's difficult for me to say that the referee came in biased and was trying to help one side win the game. I didn't see that. The touch on Daniel Amate, the referee's interpretation was that it was a penalty, and he gave it, and that's it. It was a fair game for me. I mean, from where I saw it, and obviously down to, the interpretation by everybody, and South Africans feel that the game was in. I was watching the press conference on the South African press conference as well early this week on Zoom, and Rowan Williams, the goalkeeper, did say that the referee came to him and said before the game, I was going to give you a yellow card. I don't even know how that was going to fit, because I was just looking at the analysis of the game. Rowan Williams did not get a yellow card in the game. Who had a yellow card in the game was Ghana's goalkeeper, George Walcott, because the referee felt he was actually applying some delaying tactics. That's when he got a yellow card. So I don't think that was anything that showed that the referee was tilting towards anybody. And indeed, South Africa, fair play to them. The last 25 minutes, they won the up. They looked like they would get a goal.
Well, we will be doing some more with you, George, on the happenings of the day. But I'd like to get the perspective of Ibrahim Sani Dara, who is a former spokesperson of the Ghana FA, and who has loads of experience in covering these qualifiers, just like Maurice Kwanzaa and Mamadou Gueye, who'll be joining us a little later here on the show. Ibrahim, thank you so much for your time. It's good to have you here on the Joy Sports Link.
Good afternoon, Nat. Thank you very much for having me.
And how's London treating you?
London is treating me well. I'm actually on my way to go and watch a football match. It's a little Ghanaian player in Witham. He plays for Witham United. I just want to go and have a look at him. I'm actually on my way at the moment.
Grange Road, Caledonian Market.
Great. Tell the prompt in the train to hold on for us a little bit. Anyway, Ibrahim, you've seen what has been happening. I mean, in the last week, and from where you sit, what kind of damage has it done to the Ghanaian football image? Let's begin from there.
I think it's done some damage to Ghanaian football, because I think it's been this drip image that was desperately being trying to be painted by people, whether it was from the Anas investigation and off from the Ashanti Gold Interallies thing. And I think the South Africans also behaved like chancers to take advantage of such a thing without saying that, it's Ghana manipulating it, but indirectly, implying that. Because if they
Sunny,
say
as we go along, we'll be grateful if you can switch on your video. If you can, we'll be very glad.
Okay,
right,
I'll try to do that.
Please go ahead.
Okay, so whether by design or unknowingly, that was the message they tried to put across, that the match was being manipulated. Manipulated by who? By the referee, and in conjunction with who? That is, this is what, the South Africans try to portray. And it's added to the previous images we ourselves have created about our game. And they wanted to take advantage of it by also trying to pile in and take advantage of the situation to confuse people, to confuse the public, and all of that. But I thought that the GFA response was spot on, a masterclass of them coming out to point one. I think the GFA statement achieved 3 or 4 things. One, to say that it was not true. They were not in any case involved in any match manipulation. 2, to also point out the shifting story and the inconsistencies in the South African version of the story. They started by saying that the penalty was not a penalty, but within 48 hours, you'd seen that story of the penalty not being a penalty had shifted, because the penalty happened in a rush. So television cameras, I'm sorry, but this is London. You can hear, the ambulances.
That's okay.
But yes, so you could see the shifting story. First, they started by it was a penalty. The penalty decided the matter. Then now they went on to maltreatment by Ghana, and then subsequently they shifted the goalpost to match manipulation. So this is the story so far. It's had some dent on Ghana's image, but the statement of Ghana, I think, was spot on. It hit all the international media, CNN, Al Jazeera. Even from my monitoring last night, I could see newspapers as far away as Denmark, Sweden, Spain, covering the Ghana version of the story, and I thought it achieved that aim. Now it's for FIFA to decide and to state the facts clear.
Now, you watched the game. You've seen the game. What's generally? I mean, what's your analysis of the 90 minutes that was played? Generally,
I think it was a good game. I think it was fair and balanced. My thoughts are that, the penalty was a clear penalty. I say a clear penalty because from the angles I saw, I saw two replays of it. One angle that, first of all, and most importantly, the referee being just 2 meters away from the action. That is one. Secondly, the referee warning the two players before the penalty kick award about the pushing and shoving going on in the penalty area. And thirdly, seeing the South African defender put two, not one, of his hands on Amate's shoulders. And most importantly, finally, Amate had the ball at that time in the penalty box. So if he was 2 meters away, he had warned the players. It means that he was watching them. So from then, I saw that, he had been fair, and throughout the game, even there were instances that I thought that Ghana should have had some penalty calls, but it's the referee's decision. And I think that he had the game, perfect on the spot. And I would want to come to this point of how Ghanaians ourselves paint ourselves, and it's how people would buy us. If consistently we say in the media, like the Anas tape pointed us, like what some of us as media people also say about our country, even on the penalty, without the benefit of the replay, some Ghanaian media people were actually saying that it was a penalty. So if you have, we ourselves saying this thing about ourselves, what do you want other people to say about us? And I think that it is high time as a people, we should, one amongst ourselves, we can fight each other. But when it comes to, fighting against your opponents who are outside your country, you should stand your ground for your country. I learned these lessons many years ago when I was working as a journalist at the BBC, and how, the British people will project the England national team as the best in the world. I remember in one newsroom one day, I sat next to somebody who told me that prior to the 2010 World Cup, Rooney was a better player than Messi. I thought it was crazy. But these are the sort of things, the sort of thoughts they carry, and it goes into their media and to the public sphere, and they sell you, information like this. So it's high time as a people, we should be very careful of what we say about ourselves to foreigners. And it is the reason why South Africa would have the audacity to say that even when the referee is fair, they will try to say, oh, they were smart. Just look at the headline of the complaint they sent to FIFA. Match manipulation, corruption, and all of these things. It is meant to say a certain message to FIFA, and that message is that this country is noted for that. So you should believe it when we say it.
Sunny, let's cross to George. George is there in in the Western region. George, after the game, what was the body language? What were the reactions that you saw from the South African technical bench and also the players immediately after the game?
Not let me answer the question though, sorry.
Okay, so I was asking about the body language of these South African players and the coach, and how you'd want to juxtapose that against the kinds of reactions that you got after everything and after, the following day when these allegations started coming out. What did you make of the reactions of the players after the final whistle, the South African players and their technical team?
Yeah, Nat, I think it was clear right after the game that the players were not happy with the decision. So we saw them go to the referee. Even before that, I think that the media officer was shown a red card or was actually asked to leave the technical bench. That was another incident even before that, because there was a lot of agitation from them on the bench, which is clear because I think their reading of the game was that the fouls were not going their way, the 50-50s were not going their way, and that perhaps at that point in their mind, the referee was not doing the right thing. So after the game, we saw them. They went to the referee. They spent some time with the assistant referee. They were standing right in the center of the pitch for a bit of time, and then they all moved out and walked out of the stadium. Then at the press conference, we wanted to be sure of what we have seen. So we asked the question. Hugo Broos had to answer the question about what he thought of the penalty. And he said he didn't see. Hugo Broos said he didn't see. All he saw was that a player came down and the referee said it was a penalty, so that's a penalty. There were more questions that were asked, but clearly on the night after the game, Hugo Broos' posture was, it has happened, it's a game of football, we move on. Then right after the game, in fact, the tweeting from the South African Football Association, if you check their official handle, they were tweeting things like, we have been robbed, it's Ghana and the referee against South Africa, this is what has happened here. We had some of their top journalists saying that they had traveled to Cape Coast for 9 hours. There were all sorts of things. So the trajectory from the South African Football Association point of view was that they had been robbed. That information, I don't think, had really trickled down to the team. So when the team arrived in South Africa, I am not privy to what they discussed. Because when you look at the posture of Hugo Broos now at the press conference, it was one of a man who felt that he had been cheated, who felt that the referee hadn't done the right thing, who felt that the penalty indeed was not a penalty all of a sudden, which was contrary to what he said at the press conference in Ghana. So it clearly pointed out that, yeah, some sort of discussions had gone on, and they had all moved on a certain tangent, and were looking forward to going in a certain direction from how things have gone. So it wasn't much of a surprise when we knew they were going to file in the petition and keep on the course that they were going. But after the game, they were not happy. That was the fact. At the press conference, they were not really too worried about it. They just said that, yes, we're not sure what we saw and everything. So that's what I can say from that angle.
Now, Sonny, you've heard all the different accounts that have been given. For instance, that journalists from South Africa would say that they traveled 9 hours to Cape Coast. And, I mean, for those of us who live here, we know that, yeah, there are some traffic challenges in getting on the Accra-Yamransa highway, but 9 hours is a bit of an overkill.
When
I mean,
you
it's
go
never happened.
with an escort.
Yeah.
I mean, you can see that they had already been preparing the ground for stories after the match. And I say this for a reason. If you have noted, for the past 6 years or so, anytime South Africa is kicked out of a competition, there's a call for SAFA to be sacked. There's a loud call. Just observe it. When they failed to qualify for the African Cup of Nations, there were calls for the entire SAFA board to be sacked. So I think that they had prepared the ground for moments like this, to try to find an excuse when there was none. So the penalty, it being the only thing that decided the match, will be the perfect alibi to say that these are some of the things that happened to us, the referee robbed us, and so they can also save their skins. I think that it's one of the options we must look at clearly. How can you say that from Accra to Cape Coast? In fact, I have done Accra to Cape Coast several times, 1 hour, 30 minutes. Just 2 weeks or 3 weeks ago, I went to Winneba. It took me 45 minutes to get to Winneba from Accra. So how on you say that it took you 9 hours to get to Cape Coast? So it tells you that there was a pattern to create a story that they will be cheated, Ghanaians were being unfair, and all of that. And for God's sake, even South Africa arrived in Accra before the Black Stars team itself. So you see, the pattern had been created. And as Ghanaians, I keep on harping on the fact that as Ghanaians, we should be aware of this. When you operate on the international media sphere, be it on the media sphere or as a football administrator, as I have, you would see some of these politics, these intrigues, and all of this. And this is football. So if you are not too smart to it and you fall for these things, you'll be undone. It's the same thing. Several years ago, maybe 15, 20 years ago, we'll go to North Africa, we'll play against the North African team. We are beaten 1-0, and we'll cry loudly, we've been beaten. Oh, it was the slippery pitch, Swenson and the rest. These are some of the small tricks that happens in international football. And when it happens and you are not smart to it, you don't respond, or you don't even smell the coffee before the event happens. This is what happens. So going forward, I think that when people start, building up stories or narratives like this, it is important that then we counter it. You remember prior to our qualification to the 2014 World Cup, you remember the Ghana-Zambia incident, where the Zambia national team refused to turn up on time to train at their own appointed training time. Then when they came late, they got their team to get down at the parking lot of the Kumasi Sports Stadium and started, jogging and shooting it and putting it on social media to paint the picture that Ghana has denied them the right to train when they didn't turn up at the time they were supposed to train. So these are some of the narratives that we have to be aware of. And henceforth, I think that anytime we see such misinformation being put out there, then we must counter it. And it is important. The media in Ghana must not think that it's an issue of the GFA alone. It's the entire country's image on the line. So when issues like this happen and we see it, we know that it is inaccurate. When the GFA points out, the media must also come out and say that this is the truth. So people know that it's the truth. I mean, this and many of it are some of the things that the South Africans try to prepare for their press conference that happened during the week.
Thank you very much, Ibrahim Sani Dara. I'll be coming to you for your final comments as we realize you are on to another assignment. But let's take this quote, and this is from Andy Yadom on this South African qualifier, Ghanaian player Andy Yadom. Now he says that, and I quote, "When I was on the pitch, it looked like it was a penalty, but I have watched it back, and it looks it could be a little bit soft," unquote. And this is from Andy Yadom. Now, Morris, taking a cue from what Ibrahim Sani Dara just contributed. What do you see observing from the media landscape here in Ghana regarding our consistency with our reportage and also standing up to hold Ghana's image? And of course, this is without wanting to cover up wrong. That is, if it is established that there is anything wrong.
I'd observed, even when some of the platforms we share this Black Star thing, there's a certain conspiracy even from here, flowing back from 2014, and a lot of things. People have not flashed some of those disappointments, so there are some Ghanaians who just don't want to see them go into to the World Cup, including journalists. But facts are facts. I mean, people say there's something. What is soft penalty? That is at the discretion of it's either a penalty, or it's for the referee to say that no, yes, there was shoving, but I don't think it warrants a penalty. But if the referee if you look at the replays where he was observing, and then yesterday I even saw a 4K video stills where you could see the South African guy's hands on the shoulders, and it's not just having a shoulder on the hand, because between the time when the corner kick was you always will have a hand or two. But just when the ball fell before Amati, the hands were, and then And then, of course, like every player, they will want to attract the referee's attention. And for the referee, I believe that the referee, if FIFA, he would definitely defend his. But if you look at what the South Africans are doing, and that now they said manipulation, match fixing, they were unusual betting patterns. These were the same things they put together. In fact, these were the same things that warranted that replay between South Africa and Senegal. Because at the end of the day, when FIFA went through after pressure, they realized that, they said they would sort some illegal betting patterns by some international betting firms, but they could not establish that any of the federations involved, that's Senegal, FA, and SAFA, being part of the manipulation. So referee, Ghanaian referee Joseph Lamte was banned for life, upheld by CAS, and then they ordered a replay. But they are one of the few. So I believe what the South Africa is trying to do, SAFA, they are not going to play so much on the penalty, but they are saying that there was a consistent pattern of poor or bad judgment. And then they want to link it to some so-called illegal or betting activities. It's consistent with what happened when they played Senegal, when referee Lamte awarded that non-existent penalty. So they want to establish a certain pattern. But I was having a conversation which, it's in tandem with Sani's thoughts, that there is a lot of pressure on Danny Jordan and the Safadis. So they need to paint a picture of some arm twisting. That's why the 9-hour journey, you and I, we've even traveled Johannesburg to Rustenburg, and it's not even 9 hours. And Ibrahim. So, but there has to be a lot of conspiracy theories, so that then the South Africans, after all, it's not your fault, but there were external factors that resulted in our inability to qualify. But go back to history. We've always struggled to qualify for competitions that they did not host. And so South Africa, they must also look themselves in the mirror. Like Michael Jackson said, the man in the mirror, Danny and his co. Yeah, they have all the resources, but they are failing to meet the expectations. And they need to look at other extraneous factors for their own shortcomings.
Well, let's get on our WhatsApp platform now and take a look at some of the messages that are coming through. Remember, it's 055 1111997. 055 1111997. Now, this message reads, Citizen Ato, I couldn't agree more with Ibrahim Sani Dara. He has spoken like an expert. Now, South Africa started preparing the ground prior to the game. Hitherto, you see why scoring more goals in a match meant a lot. Well, this is from Papa C in Aprede. Papa C, thank you very much for that message. So keep them coming. Let me do some more. Sam Bannerman in the U.S. has sent this message. He says, okay, I'll try to retrieve that message and bring it back. So 055111997, 055111997. Now, SAFA is honestly speaking frivolous and disappointing in their complaints about the Ghana versus South Africa 2022 World Cup qualifier. After watching the incident of the penalty and the content of the complaints, I have come to the following conclusions. Number 1, SAFA has no case. Number 2, they are just bad losers. Number 3, they are exposing themselves to international ridicule. Number 4, they are engaging in unsportsmanly behavior. Now, number 5, they are misleading their players and creating a negative mindset in their players in the spirit of competition, which is respecting an opponent's victory and accepting one's defeat. Number 6, they are creating a problem for their players in the area of being signed by big clubs. And big clubs in the world may contemplate on these issues and consider signing, if signing them will be a good decision. This is from Jerry in Awushi. All right, Jerry, I'm glad for your message. So 055 1111 997. 055 11 11 997. Okay, so this one is from Ajiman in Community 9 in Tema, and he says, good afternoon, Nat, another great show. Whether or not there was a soft penalty or hard one was once... okay, I'm struggling to retrieve that message. We'll try to bring that back. We'll try to bring that back. Now, there's one thing I'd want to... there's one thing I'd want to find out from you, Morris. But before that, let me do this one from Inko Joseph. So he says the pain of South Africa is that through them, we Ghana qualified for Germany 2006, and through them, we qualified to the Next Nations Cup. Through them, we are qualifying to Qatar. I think their motivation is the CAF president. Let's stay focused. Thank you very much, Inko Joseph, for that message. Morris, there are two outcomes.
Yeah.
Only two possible outcomes. And those will be that the replay is ordered or the case is quashed.
Yeah.
In the case that a replay is ordered by FIFA, then what will be your reaction?
I'll be disappointed, but going to it, Danny Jordan, you also watched the press conference. They said the contacted Patrice Motsepe, the South African CAF president, who is also automatically FIFA vice president, but they are not using him. I mean, you tell this to the Marines, but it tells you that there could be a lot of pressure on FIFA, and for that matter, the FIFA, or for that matter, the disciplinary committee to rule in a particular way. But that's why it's important that the GFA's response is well crafted. In fact, I was on another platform with a former GFA president, a very astute lawyer who previously has represented the GFA before, has dealt with FIFA, CAS, and then as to how the GFA will go about it. And he stated that the crafting of the response must be very sharp to deal with the issues as they come, as the South Africans have raised. So how GFA also responds is also equally important, because I know, I believe that South Africa was to use Motsepe, who's the vice president of FIFA, to push a certain agenda, because I mean the World Cup, beyond Ghana denying them places at international competition, the World Cup is big. I mean, for sporting and other commercial reasons, they want to go. And then, of course, there's pressure on SAFA over the years. They have so much resources and then very little coming up. Perhaps they should thank God for Mamelodi Sundowns, who probably have eased a bit of their pain. I've been monitoring the SAFA social media, particularly the Facebook page. You know, you used to have the Ghana-Niger wars, Jollof wars, but there's been a lot of activity, Ghanaians on the page, and it's been exciting. But they are coming out as very sore losers.
And if...
But I mean, but in the unlikely event that CAF orders a replay, we must put our best foot forward. We must prepare and then execute that.
And the FA president says that even if the game is played in Barcelona, we will win.
oh yeah. I mean, you can see, even we can see a certain progress. I mean, the Black Stars, the team confidence, they know what's at stake. Look, we days later we saw that dressing room talk by Andre Ayew, where he told them, I mean, in no uncertain, it was more to assure them that we can do it. That look, he who doesn't have the heart, who doesn't believe that the team can get to the World Cup, then when you get to Accra, pack your things and go. It's just to tell them that, like, look, we need to do it together. We believe we can go. Don't listen to the naysayers. Let's encourage us. Let's motivate ourselves, because they know what it is to play at the FIFA World Cup. So In the unlikely event that FIFA rules that there should be a replay, hey, we'll do it. And then I think Milo and Co, they know what to do to win. I believe we can beat them without any assistance. I'm not saying we didn't beat them with any assistance, but we can beat them fair and square. We even did that. I mean, I remember 2005. I was at the FMB Stadium when we beat them in that decisive fixture. And since 2021 years ago, when Siabunga Nomvete scored against the Black Stars in the quarterfinal of CAN 2000, they've never beaten us in Accra and in Ghana, and I don't expect them to beat us if a replay is ordered.
Well, we'll be touching base with African football analyst Mamadou Gueye. He is stationed in Johannesburg, South Africa, and he will be telling us, where he also stands regarding this matter and how he views all of this from his own professional lens. I would now wrap up with George Addo Jr. on the ground. And George, just before you go, there is a lot of conversation on the streets of Sekondi and Takoradi. Of course, a bit of it about the Black Stars and also about, the Hazakas ladies team who have done Ghana proud. And in as much as they were unable to hold on to the winning side of the Ghana-South Africa football rivalry, they made it. You had conversations with some fans on the streets. Bring us up to speed on the mood and how much the Hazakas ladies team lifted spirits in Sekondi Takoradi. Can you hear me, George? Hello, George. All right, so we'll be doing some more. We'll be doing some more and going back to George Addo Jr. for the reactions, especially from the Hazakas ladies' feat in the CAF Women's Champions League. Would be going back to all of that. Now, I was asking about Andy Adams' comments. I mean, he plays for the Black Stars, and he just comes out to say that, look, I feel this was,
I would actually love to listen to the question, and then they only give an extract of
the full.
Yeah, I want to understand the context in which, and then the full interview, because sometimes just picking a quote can misrepresent what the person actually said. But I don't understand what he means by it's soft. It's either a penalty or no penalty. Sometimes you hear people, including colleagues, say, "Oh, this one, the thing was seemingly offside." You are either onside or offside. There's no such thing as seemingly offside. Whether something was soft, a tackle, or was soft, is at the discretion of the referee. We can disagree with them, but it's at their discretion, and very often their decisions stand.
Let's talk about these trends in world football. I remember very well that, during the tenure of Sepp Blatter, he was almost always, against the idea of having, electronic assisted, decision-making devices like the VAR. He wanted us to maintain that human element of football. Of course, many countries and many clubs have had to pay for it sometimes when referees make wrong decisions. I remember that of Ireland, who had to pay very heavily when Thierry Henry used to handle the ball.
Had to score.
Yeah.
Sepp Blatter, I mean, he's a bit of a lot of the football reforms came under him, but he wanted to maintain, because you see, he, in as much as he knows that technology will help improve officiating, sometimes it opens up all manner of possibility, all manner of even legal cases. For instance, it's because of technology that we had certain matches, a few matches replay, because then you could see where those infractions. But I believe technology is good. It is how even with VAR. Look at how VAR is being handled in England compared with, say, the La Liga, where after matches, now you get referees going directly to consult. But in England, it's centralized. The VAR system is somewhere in Wembley, in London. So a match can be played in at Old Trafford or in Southampton, but some people are reviewing it far away in London. But the thing about technology is that it helps improve the game. But there always will be that human element.
spot.
But that's why FIFA also seldomly supports replay, because it can create a lot of chaos. It opens up so that a team, maybe a week or two after they are eliminated, will go and look for they will put together all manner of conspiracy theories, or will point up to some human errors to demand replays. But so far as human beings are referees, human beings are interpreting the rules of the game, there will be errors. That's why the Law 5 states categorically that even if there are errors, the decision of the referee is final. So it's only in a few instances that they look at other factors beyond human error. So, for instance, the match between South Africa and Senegal, yes, there was a non-existent penalty. Referee Lamti whistled for a penalty, claiming the ball hit the Senegalese defender's arm, even though replays revealed that it hit the knee. But they looked at so-called betting patterns to come to a conclusion that there was a lot of external influence. So perhaps the referee took money from betting companies, and we know what they can do when now betting companies influence matches. There are a lot of very funny betting patterns. We have an unresolved case in Ghana between Inter Allies, who have been relegated, and Ashanti Go. So that's where South Africa seem to be building their case that, well, they can put a finger on the GFA or some officials, perhaps, but they are saying that they are seeing some illegal betting patterns, so they want the FIFA agency that monitors them to look at it. So that's what they want, a similar thing. But look at what happened between Ireland and France. We saw Thierry Henry handling the ball, and then William Gallas scored. But FIFA knows that if they should order a replay based on that, then there will be total chaos, because then we can have 1,001 similar incidents. So are we going to replay all matches?
And in that last weekend as well, you saw a situation with Portugal where they had lost 2-1 to Serbia, and because of that, we'll now have to wait. Cristiano Ronaldo and his teammates will have to wait for the playoffs to determine whether or not they will appear.
There will be chaos if FIFA supports
ahead of
those
that, in the
things.
first leg, Cristiano Ronaldo scored a goal and it crossed the line. Remember, and it was adjudged not to be a goal.
Yeah.
The referee said it wasn't
Even with goal line technology, they still make mistakes. Look at England. England VAR, very funny way of managing the VAR. We saw the Euros. The VAR was, we didn't have a lot of controversy. So even with the intervention of technology, we'll still have a lot of mistakes.
Well, as I mentioned earlier, FIFA has requested the video from the media house that covered this game, and that is GTV Sports Plus brought us the live coverage of that game. Let's see what will happen after these investigations. We'll be reaching Mamadou Gueye, the seasoned African football specialist from Johannesburg. But let's wrap it up with George, who has been picking some thoughts, including this one, and we'll start off with that, and then we'll zoom in on the women's football spike that we've had and its following because of the exploits of Hazaka's ladies in the maiden edition of the CAF Women's Champions League. Now, George, first of all, tell me, I'm sure that people have seen you in town, in Takoradi, and have been asking you questions about the game and its result and what has happened at FIFA and all of that.
Yes, I know your question though.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I've had a lot of that. And this morning I've been on a number of radio stations. I think the last I was on Asada FM. We were talking about what this actually means and whether South Africa have a case. Basically, that's what they've been asking me here. And I've said that, well, I don't think FIFA is going to go into the business of whether was this a penalty or not a penalty. It's up to South Africa to prove that the so-called mistakes they're talking about were being manipulated by Ghana or inspired by Ghana. That is what they'll be looking out for, basically. And so until South Africa are able to prove that there were other external factors really aside Ghana or with Ghana having to have affected the game, nothing was going to really take back the result that was achieved at the Cape Coast Stadium. Most people felt that at a point it was actually going to be up to what was happening in the media, the banter between the Ghana Football Association and the South African Football Association. And I was able to explain that all of that is not something that the referee, it's something that FIFA is going to be interested in. FIFA is going to be interested in the petition filed by South Africa Football Association and the response of the Ghana Football Association. And even that's going to be handled by the FIFA Disciplinary Committee. And so we just await what that's going to be coming out of it. And we will just be paying attention to that. By that, everybody is very hopeful that this is going nowhere, really, because we have been privy to what's in the petition of the South African Football Association. And we don't think there's so much to come out of that. But let's see how it goes from there.
Well, let's also talk about the big one that happened last night at the June 30 Stadium in Cairo, Egypt. And when we talk about Cairo, Egypt, there's a lot of fond memories, especially when it comes to youth football, because Ghana made a very, very important mark on football history, being the first to win the Under-20 FIFA World Cup, the first for Ghana and the first for Africa. Now, Hazaka's ladies, try as they did, were unable to break that jinx, that 3-year unbeaten jinx by Mamelodi Sundowns ladies. Now, give me an idea of the mood, as the game was ongoing and, as it was getting close to wrapping up, and when the reality dawned on the people that the trophy was not coming. Okay, I'm told that we lost George there. We're going to raise him back. Let's get a few of our messages on our WhatsApp platform now. And Sambanaman in the US says, Nat, I don't blame the South Africans. Ghana Black Stars are to be blamed because the team got several chances to score more goals, but all the chances were wasted. Okay. Now, South Africa came with a defensive mindset, hence their loss. Now, BIG in Brekum says, please educate us now. What can be the possible outcome of this protest against Ghana? Well, we've been talking about it. There are basically two outcomes that, the game, that there will be a replay ordered and Ghana will be cleared of any wrongdoing. I do not, there possibly could be also a sanction against the referee if it is duly established with evidence that, he actually did he did anything against the good interest of the game or did anything in the interest of the beauty of football, and also went against certain rules and regulations when it comes to, professional conduct. Okay, let's get back to George Ado Jr. on the line again. George, I was just asking you about, the atmosphere in Takoradi as the game was ongoing, the kinds of conversations that went on, and when it dawned on the people that this maiden CAF Champions League trophy for women was not coming to Ghana.
Well, when I got to Takoradi, I think I was at the Takoradi Market Circle. There was a little fusion there because the JHS students had finished PET, plus a few of the fans as well were getting themselves ready for it. So Takoradi Market Circle was very loud, very, very loud. And then in pockets of the street, you could see so many pockets. You could see people gathering to watch the game, hoping that the ladies were going to win it. They were that confident because on speaking to most of them, they felt that the ladies had done so well. And playing against a side, this was the line that was very, very common. They say that they were playing against a side that had scored only 2 goals and had defended all the way through the competition. And they felt that because they had scored 10 goals, they were going to find a way around Mamelodi Sundowns. That was it. And the confidence was in there. I had a lot of people tell me, look, the men have not been able to do it, but the ladies are doing it, and they are marketing Takoradi, marketing Sekondi, marketing the Western region. So they were very, very, very hopeful. Even when Hazaka's ladies went down by a goal, they were still hopeful that in the second half, the girls will score because we're creating chances. Then the second half came along, and it was a second goal. Even a second, when they had considered the second goal, some were telling me that it's the do spirit. Do can do something. They were saying do, but they had no eye. At the end of the game, they had lost. So if you know Takoradi or Second D Takoradi very well, you know that in Second D, around Chocolate City, there was a whole viewing party by one of the local stations here. If you know Takoradi Market Circle very well, you know there's another big party there. And then in the outskirts. So if you look at it from bar to bar, you could see people gathering and watching the games. The truth is that in the last 4 minutes or 3, I think it was 4 minutes of added on time, 3 minutes, just 3 minutes of added on time, people now could believe that it was not going to happen for them. But what I loved was that everyone I spoke to, and even at those little gatherings, there was this constant line that the ladies had gone and punched above their weight. The ladies had gone and done a lot beyond their expectations. And that even though they didn't win the final, it was such a good place. They kept on reminding me that this is the Hazakis ladies who in the last few months have managed to win 3 trophies and have done well. They reminded me they won the Ghana Women's Premier League. They won the FA Cup trophy, the Women's FA Cup trophy. They won the Wafu Zone B trophy and were in the final of the CAF Champions League. I mean, the CAF Women's Champions League, the maiden edition. To be fair, the last time we had clubs in Ghana, or clubs from Ghana participating at the continental level at that stage in the final was the maiden CAF Confederations Cup final between Kumasi Asante Kotoko and Accra Hearts of Oak. So this, by all standards, was such a huge feat, and they were even wondering if it was going to happen again. They believe they've got a strong team. The fans here say they're happy. They love what they have done. Even though they didn't win the final, they are happy and looking forward to meeting them. So I'm told about some arrangements. They're hoping that the team gets in, I think, on Monday, and they will be having their brass band as usual as they do when they go around. There's a little procession even late on in the night, and they loved that. I spoke a bit about what they will be doing from here now that they have lost. And do you know what the response was? Not. The response was they have the Super Cup. They want to win the Super Cup. They think they're good enough to win the Super Cup, which begins in a few days, was launched at the Ghana Football Association Secretariat. So they're looking at winning the Super Cup, and they think they have a super team. And that if they're able to get back to the final maybe next year or next 2 years when another opportunity comes for them, they'll be able to win it.
Okay, great. George, you have a good one. Thank you so much for all of the updates that you've given us. And we're looking forward to seeing and receiving our ladies, our gallant ladies, for this very big feat that they've achieved. Thank you so much, George. So that was George Addo Jr., our lead commentator here on Joy Sports, and he has been bringing us all of the thoughts from Second D Takoradi as all of the fans are awaiting the arrival of Hazakas ladies, who finished second in the maiden edition of the CAF Women's Champions League. Let's do some more messages. Good afternoon, Nat. South Africa should stop crying over spilt milk. It's done and dusted. They don't deserve to be at the World Cup. And this is from Jones Adobo in La. The South Africans are bad losers. They have not adduced enough evidence to warrant the cancellation of the match. This case is dead on arrival. This is from Enoch Nati from Latte. Now, this one from Joseph Beck in Pretoria says, the South Africans must prove beyond reasonable doubt that what they sent to FIFA is true and backed by evidence. They are behaving like a party in Ghana who went to the Supreme Court and wanted the defendant to make their case for them. SAFA didn't take any evidence, and that is why they added that they will present their evidence in 72 hours. They are bad losers. Joseph Ba in Pretoria, South Africa there. Now, this other one from Pasolo in Sunyai says, hello, greetings, Nathaniel Atto. Please, we should be careful not to lose Ghana as our home grounds in future. Please, henceforth, I suggest pre-match discussions in the media should be discouraged by letting out all of our information before the match. Please, there are foreigners in Ghana who speak and communicate our local languages very well. Thank you very much, Pasolo in Sunyani. But nowadays technology and the way we run football makes it very impossible to keep. For instance, the thing with letting out your starting 11. I mean, nowadays it is standard. It's standard. So it becomes very, very difficult. Now, Eric Sego in Techiman says, I agree with Sunny. The media must watch the way they report to the public so far as Ghana football is concerned. Thank you very much for all of those messages. Remember, it's 055 11 997. 055 11 997. Morris, George was just giving us a feel of how the people of Takoradi and that base, of Hazakas ladies have been behaving and reacting to the game. But before that, let me go back to Sani, Ibrahim Sani Dara, so he could give us his final comments and wrapping up. Sani, you've heard all of the concerns that have happened. I wish to hear what your conclusions will be, or your answers will be to that question about the outcomes, the possible outcomes, and how you would feel about them from where you sit and what you've seen of this particular matter.
I think the possible outcomes are that this will amount to nothing. One point is that, from that incident of the match between Senegal and South Africa, that was replayed. Now, I keep on saying this. I think on Joy FM, I made this point about 5 years ago, that FIFA has something called the early warning system. Mm-hmm. It's a system that looks at the odds of most of the betting companies in the world. And let's say closer to a match, if there are particular betting patterns and there are large stakes, they will give a warning. FIFA itself will give a warning that this match is under risk of being manipulated. So they would stop the match. They will call for the match to be stopped. If it is not stopped and the match kicks off, the match will be investigated automatically by FIFA. In this case, there's nothing like that. There was nothing like that. It's Safa who making this point, but they've not provided any evidence whatsoever to back their claims. They just make tittle-tattle. Oh, we hear people were making comments about betting on matches. Close to every match, betting on every match spikes. But if there's, let's say, a predicted scoreline, let's say 3-1, and it is being betted across the world with large amounts of money, that is when people will say there's a suspicious betting pattern. But when South Africa itself has not provided that evidence to show that there was this betting pattern, there was this collusion whatsoever, they cannot make a claim that this match was manipulated. I will be very, very, very surprised that FIFA would ask that the match be replayed. Even in 2009, when in the case that Morris mentioned, when Henry Thierry, and after the match, admitted that he handled the ball and William Gallas scored, even at that point, the game was not replayed, the result was not overturned, nothing of that sort was made. So I'll be very, very surprised, and we should be on the lookout for everything. The FA should be apt. They have the deadline of today to respond. They should be apt on it, and they should send a very strong response to FIFA. Thereafter, they must follow up. You never know what happens behind the scenes in football. You never know. People have, I'm not suggesting that anything has been influenced in the boardrooms or whatever. I'm not suggesting that at all. But the FA should be apt on it and should follow things up. If this comes to a head, we must consider all the other options available, be it CAS, be it legal action in Switzerland and all. These are options on the table that we must exercise. And then before I leave you completely, let me just hit it once again that as Ghanaians, first of all, we must not allow people from outside to attack our country and go scot-free. I doff my hats off for the president of the FA, Kurt Okraku, for the withering, response he gave, for the strong statements that was put across. And I expect that going forward, together with the media, we must protect all the institutions we have in our country. When our brother Sam George spoke on CNN the other day, every Ghanaian across the world and even other African countries were in support of what he said and the way he put the country's position across. It is the same way that we must protect our country. Amongst ourselves in Ghana, be it Football Association, whatever, Hearts, Kotoko, we can fight. NDC, MPP, we can fight. But when it comes to, us being attacked from the outside, we must be very, very wise. If we have people in key positions, they should stand up and be counted. And I think that the FA stood up for Ghana, and Ghana must applaud them. Now let's put our hands and heads together, await this decision from FIFA, and then we go forward from there.
Final thoughts on the achievement made by Hazakas ladies and what should be the biggest lesson, when it comes to us as a football collective in going forward.
I think that we can do it. All we need is funding. Even if you look at it, the ladies, first of all, we have to congratulate Hazakas for the work they've done. They've shown that they are undisputed champions. Even though they didn't win the trophy, they've shown that they've got the greats, they are talented, and they can go anywhere that any team can go. Secondly, you saw that before the WAFU tournament started, they did not have enough financing to be able to push them to go. It was, corporate organizations, the vice president of Ghana, Alhaji Mahamudu Bawumia, and the rest who came to assist them. That tells you one thing. There's problem with financing of football in Ghana. And I've been making this constant calls. And these calls must not go unheeded until we get some sort of state support for football and sports generally in the country. We cannot compete with our peers. I say this for a reason, and I say that the state can support in many, many ways. Most of these young girls that play in this tournament would be willing or will be seeking to go into the army, the police, fire service, immigration, all of those positions. They'll be seeking to get jobs in there. I think that when sports people are in the country, we should make things easier for them. Let them get employed. Once these ladies are playing there, they know they are employed. They are guaranteed salaries. They are guaranteed pensions. They will stay in the country for long. Otherwise, look, I fear to say, Buedua and co, you would find the foreign teams poaching them in no time. You find that I'm not opposed to players leaving the country to go and further hone their skills. But what about the rest who stay in the country? What sort of lives will they have after the game? What sort of lives do they have whilst they are playing? Do they have decent salaries? Do they have pensions? These are the things we must look at. And this is why I say that, like we did in the colonial era, many years ago, we should make it a point that players, be it men, women, athletes, boxers, and the rest, there are recruitment going all over the place. The other day I heard that the immigration service was recruiting, or was it customs? And there were many people. Why can't we reserve a quota for people who choose to stay in the country and play sport for the country? Why can't we reserve a quota for them and have them also go in there and represent these organizations in the sports that they play? There are military games that they play. There are games that the prisons and the rest, customs, they all play competitions. I think it's the CESA games. They all play competitions, and they need athletes. They need footballers. They need boxers. They need all of these things. Let's make it a policy in the country so we can protect them. We cannot compete with the developed countries like England, France, Spain, and Germany in terms of wealth, in terms of, money to get our players to stay. But what we can do for them in the minimum or in the list is that to guarantee them decent wages and decent pensions when they retire.
Sonny, thank you so much. It's been wonderful getting your perspective to the conversations here on the Joy Sports Link, and we look forward to doing some more.
Thank you very much, Nat, and have a good afternoon. Greetings to Maurice and everybody.
Great stuff there. Maurice, let's just pick it up from where Sonny left it. He's been talking about solutions and how to keep the momentum, especially because of the kind of message that Hazakas ladies have sent us with this kind of performance.
Yes, I think they captured our imagination. It's been a roller coaster journey. I didn't expect them to do this well, looking at how other countries have overtaken us when it comes to women's football. But Hazakas ladies give us hope that if we can get things right, women's football can rise again, that the future of Ghana football is feminine. I mean, looking at a lot of these young ladies rising up, and kudos to Uncle Nabing Yasin for all they've been doing. The irony is that whilst Sekondi Hazakes, the men, they are on the downward slope, the ladies are going now. But to pick up from where my brother Ibrahim said, we need a lot more investment, a lot more competition. Thankfully, the packaging, the promotion of the women's game, there's been remarkable improvement in the last 2 years. I mean, what the FA is doing, Hilary Boating, and they are amazing. So we'll need to see how we could get a lot more funding for women's football, a lot more funding at the grassroots. How do we prop up a lot more young ladies to be interested in the game? What other opportunities do we offer those here? I know there's top dollar going, chasing top talents across the world. So there's very little we can do. And these young ladies, they also have hopes of playing in the big leagues in Europe. So, but there are a lot. I mean, once we have the Evelyn Boydus, the poster girls coming up, we'll have others who want to emulate what they've done. So what programs do we have for them right at the grassroots, at the school level, school sport? We need to encourage them. And that's where we need to get a lot of investment in beyond the GFA. How do we get the Ghana Education Service interested in women's game and women's sports in general? That's where we need to turn our attention. And there's a lot of funding going into the Ghana, into education. How are we able to get some into developing school sports, women in sports? So that's where we need to concentrate. At the level of competition, the GFA, they are putting a lot into it. The packaging is exciting, and I'm happy that now we're using a lot of social media to push the game. I mean, what happened? I mean, because we're going to play Mamelodi Sundowns, there was a lot of excitement because of what's happened between SAFA and the GFA. But beyond that, how do we keep women football? So even for you and I as sports media personalities, we need to keep women sports and women's football, for that matter, on the front burner.
Keep women's football on the front burner. These are the words of Morris Kwanzaa, who's the Vice President of the Sports Writers Association of Ghana, my guest here in the studio. Apologies for our inability to bring you the conversation with Mamadou Gueye from Johannesburg. We have had difficulties in getting him on. Now, let's do some boxing before we wrap it up as well. Isaac Dogbe will be in action, and he will be going up against Puerto Rican Christopher Diaz. Isaac Dogbe is defeated twice in 24 bouts, and 15 of his wins have come by way of knockout. Diaz, on the other hand, has 26 wins, and 3 of them have come as 26 wins, 3 losses, and 16 knockouts out of his wins. Diaz has not tasted world title glory yet, has won French titles under major world titles. He's won the NABF featherweight title and lost an opportunity to win a world title when he fought against Emmanuel Navarrete, who is also one of the nemesis figures of Isaac Dogbe, the only nemesis figure for Isaac Dogbe. Yeah. So we'll be taking a listen to a preview from Hans Mensah Andor of Joy Sports, after which we'll take your phone calls and then we can call it a wrap. We'll also take the thoughts of Morris on this bout that happens later tonight.
This cannot be described as anything else than the fact that it's going to be action-packed. Christopher Diaz versus Isaac Dogbe, I beg your pardon, nearly mentioned Emmanuel Navarrete there, and rightly so. Those two boxers have Navarrete as a common denominator. They've both fought against Navarrete and both lost. Diaz lost in the 12th round via a TKO to the Mexican. Dogbe, of course, had 2 fights against Navarrete and lost both. You can analyze this fight, but you'll be wrong, by the way, on evidence of how the two boxers performed against Emmanuel Navarrete. But like I said, you would be wrong. Once the two men enter the ring, what they've done previously does not matter. However, what matters is that victory means that each one of them will be taking a step closer to to another world title shot. Defeat would have dire ramifications, especially for Isaac Dogboe. I did mention after his last fight that, from that moment, from the moment where he begins to rebuild after the defeat against Emmanuel Navarrete, it's important he keeps up a consistent run. And by consistent run, I mean victory. It's as simple as that. If he loses, his climb up the top again becomes a little more difficult. It won't be over as far as his career is by any stretch of the imagination, but it could have dire ramifications, and so he needs to keep up the consistency. Navarrete, of course, I keep mentioning Navarrete, I beg your pardon. Dogboe, of course, goes into this one as a smaller man. In other words, Christopher Diaz will go into this fight as the bigger opponent, and rightly so. Dogboe has gone into most fights as a smaller man, but he has never looked out of place in any fight. And, we know that he's going to be explosive from the opening bell. However, what is worrying from what we saw of his last fight and in previous fights is the fact that Dogboe tends to fade out in the second half of fights, and he cannot afford to let that happen in this fight. Hopefully his team would have realized that and worked on it. If Dogboe can keep up the momentum right from round 1 to the 12th round or the final round, we could be in for something special. However, if he does fade in the second half of the fight, that could prove to be a bit difficult for him. All in all, I do expect victory for Isaac Dogboe. It's not going to be an easy fight. I think that Christopher Diaz realizes the magnitude of the task at hand and the ramifications of defeat, and so would not take this fight lightly. I expect Dogboe to win. I expect a very difficult fight, but by the end of the fight, I do expect that Dogboe is going to have his hands raised. It's a fight that could go either way, but then again, the Ghanaian in me tells me that Dogboe would be able to dig a bit deeper and find victory where Christopher Diaz will not be able to find it.
Sir Andor, he is the host of Fan Zone on the Joy News channel every weekday from 10:30 p.m., being very apt to these decisions. This one says, "Good afternoon, Citizen Ato. I always enjoy listening to you. Hazakes ladies broke our hearts just like Chimu did to Ogasco." Kaunda from Fadama. Well, the green color just couldn't rain yesterday. That's just about it. There's this very lengthy one. Let me just quickly go through it before I come to Morris for final comments. Seyram, listening from Helsinki in Poland. He says, this soft penalty kick was, if this soft penalty kick was given to Ghana, I'm not sure.
Given against Ghana.
Sorry. If this soft penalty kick was given against Ghana, I'm not sure this will be the tone of our voices. I was there. Was there contact from the South Africa player behind? Yes. Does it warrant a penalty? No. By the way, if the dude in front of Amate had theatrically fallen down like he did, then it should have been a foul against us at the first place, because clearly Amate gave him a slight push too. As for Safa, it's rather unfortunate they're acting petty and infantile. Worst things happen in football, and they should learn and move on. Seram, listening in Helsinki. Okay, thank you very much, Seram, for your message there. Well, Morris, Isaac Dogboe against Christopher Diaz. What should we be looking out for?
I'm hoping that Isaac will be able to put up, not just win, a good performance, because he needs some tune-up fights and then possibly get another world title shot at the featherweight division. I've seen him. I mean, his money to put the second loss to Navarrete behind him, and then I think this is going to be his third fight, and so I think I saw him the way in. He looks very trim, and then that I want to see how many rounds. This is 10 rounds.
This is a 10 round.
Yeah, because
before you go on with your
non-title
analysis, Morris, let's just quickly announce the phone lines. 0302-216-541. 0302-216-541. Please get through to us if you can. Let's squeeze in a few phone calls before we wrap it up. 0302-216-541. Morris.
Yes, because it's a non-title fight, it's not going to run. But Dogboe, I mean, you're also a boxing expert, so you know. Very often, after 9-10th round, if he's unable to get his knockout, he tends to wear out. He gets tired. So I want to see how he's going to pace himself throughout the 10 round, how dominant he's going to be, and then let's see, because it's not every fighter you can knock down. He goes for the body punches, he tries to wear down his opponents. Unfortunately, some of them are they are hard as what they call it, hard at a nail. So it's not just anybody you can. But I want to see how he's going to handle him, how he's going to jab, how he's going to pick up his points, and see how ready he is for another shot at the world title.
Interesting thoughts. Let's get on the phone line now. Hello, good afternoon.
Hello, no.
Well, thank you for joining us on the Joy Sports Link. Can you lower the volume on your radio set, and please do go ahead. 45 seconds.
Okay, nice. So that's my contribution. On the Ghana penalty against South Africa. You see, football is dynamic. Because of its dynamism, there is a clause within the rule that the referee has a discretionary power. Now, if certain decision is very undoubtful, that we cannot even get the bottom of it, they give that discretionary powers to the referee to continue the game. An award, a free kick award needs to be given. He can rule over and get the play on, or he can award a penalty. So discretionary, he decided to award a penalty, and the law covers him. I think that's my contribution.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much. 0302216541. Hello, good afternoon.
Yeah, good afternoon. I hope you're doing well.
I hope you are doing well too. Thank you very much.
Yeah, that
Please
was
go
great.
ahead.
This is Ajima Joseph Tema.
Please go ahead.
Yeah, the statement I was trying to make, the case I was trying to make is, whether soft or hard, there was a contact. And once there was a contact, the discretion lies in the referee to decide. So I think they should stop making sense about whether it is penalty or not. After all, they came into the game with a defensive minded. That's why they lost. And they came out strongly about 15 to 20 minutes just because to equalize. After all, which goal did they score and it was disallowed? So I think it is like somebody losing an election and saying that I'll be stolen, so I'm going to Supreme Court. It's simple as that. They can't go anywhere, and it will not change anything. God with you.
Thank you very much, Ajiman. Let's take the final call. Hello, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Nat.
Thank you for joining us on the Joy Sports Link.
Thank you. This is Abu.
Okay, Abu. You're our final caller. Please do this in 30 seconds.
Yeah, Nat, you know something? Could you remember 96 when we play
That is right.
against them in South
Exactly.
Africa?
Yes, with the North African referee taking decisions against Ghana. I remember.
Yes, could you remember?
I remember very well.
That's since that day. I'll be expecting something like this to come so that it will be something like payback to them. I wouldn't be happy even if like we score them 5-0 and they'll be complaining. This is a slim margin which will be painful to them. So tell them they should go back and look at that match, what the referee did, and then they will start questioning the other referees. So that's my contribution. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And that's how we'll wrap it up. I do remember that game in the Africa Cup of Nations, South Africa 96, very clearly. It was such a painful defeat, and especially because the North African referee in charge was very, very biased towards, the Bafana. This is how I would say goodbye. Thank you so much. Thanks to the whole production team here at Joy Sports. Thanks to Morris Kwanzaa and also to Ibrahim Sani Dara. And to all of you for listening. We'll be back next week with another Joy Sports Link. Pastor Daryl Kwao is up next with the Joy Headline News.
And guess what? Asu is in the news again. At 2.
Okay, well, let me wrap up. It's time for me to wrap up.
All right.
Nathaniel Atto, and I have love for sport.